Hello everybody, here we are today doing kind of a quick summary of the 2025 World Juniors Tournament and just getting into that. Now before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last night ended the tournament in an exciting way, and that's kind of the way things go for a tournament like this that is very short, where a lot of things happen in a small time span, and we'll be covering a lot of these things here, mainly talking about how these nations did and having some quick closing thoughts at the end of the video. So to kick it off, Kazakhstan, the team that was recently promoted, did end up getting pushed down as they had a bad tournament. I think one game in particular was a pretty bad loss for the Central Asian nation, as they lost 14-2 to Czechia. Overall, they had a -22 goal differential and are a team that will be looking to kind of get promoted yet again here soon, hopefully for them. But in their place next year, it will be Denmark. So we'll see if the Danes have better luck than the Kazakhs. But of course, too, it's always tough when you're taking on some of these other teams that are firmly established in this top bracket. Now, coming in at number 9, you had Germany, who did their part to stay up again as they beat the Kazakhs in an elimination game. The Germans are a side that doesn't really do a whole lot, but have been able to avoid being sent down on multiple occasions. It's interesting that for this nation that is so big, that does have a professional hockey league that's relatively large, they aren't able to do better. They do have some top-end talent that comes out of, of course, the country, but still, this is a side that is pretty firmly in a spot where they're not going to contend for any medals, and that was again the case this year. Coming in at number 8, you had Switzerland. This team has not won a medal since, I believe, 1998, but they did make things interesting. They had a 7-5 game with a big third-period comeback against Sweden to kind of get it close. Again, one of those goals was super late in the game where you knew there wasn't actually going to be a comeback, but it was a little bit of a fun one for them. And then moving on to number 7, you had Latvia. Latvia did not win a medal, but they were probably the second most talked team about in the tournament, as this side ended up beating Canada for the first time ever in the tournament's history for Latvia, and were able to keep things close with some other teams that maybe you thought that could have been able to beat them more comfortably. I believe Sweden was one of those. Big goalie performances multiple times for their goalie, and it was a side that, again, is not going to be winning any medals, but they are kind of safe in their spot. They've finished 7th, relatively often in recent years, and maybe they can try to work their way up to the middle-ish of the pack and then try to claw their way up again towards competing for a medal in the coming years. And then coming in at number 6, you have Slovakia, a side that ended up finishing 6th for a third straight year. The Slovaks are safe, and that's kind of, I guess, the highlight here, the positive here. They have not won a medal since 2015, I do believe, but we're kind of a weird team in the tournament. They beat a team like Kazakhstan by 1 goal, and they beat a team like Switzerland by 1 goal, but then we're able to give the Finns a little bit of a run for their money in the tournament as well, too. So just kind of a weird thing in how this tournament will go. Maybe if they get a little bit more luck next season, or next year, I should say, we could see a better result. But again, it'd be funny if they finish 6th yet again. That would be probably, again, all right, but a team that is not all right, ended up finishing above them, was Canada. They finished 5th. This tournament got off to a pretty quick disaster as they lost to Latvia for the first time that we've already talked about. But I think their losses to the US 4-1, and then of course to Czechia 4-3, were especially problematic, and it ends the tournament in a very disheartening way. This is the first time in like 45 years where the nation will not have a medal in back-to-back years. So I think the biggest problem about this team kind of started off before the tournament even began, talking about, what could have been for this roster, and then when the roster underperformed like a lot of people thought it could have, it just spelled doom for Hockey Canada, as there are a lot of questions to ask about how this nation can get back on its feet after having a good run not that long ago, a couple years ago, and winning gold back in 2023, but that is again for a later date. Then coming in at number 4, you have Sweden, a team that was able to flex their muscles offensively early on in the tournament. A little bit later on, they weren't able to find as many goals as they were hoping for, and the loss to Czechia, I think, is pretty disheartening here because they beat the Czechs just a couple days before, but ended up seeing their tournament ended in a heartbreaking way, losing to the Czechs 4-3, and it was a lot of shootouts in that game. But ultimately, it means that the Czechs are, of course, the team that ended up taking the bronze there. This Czech side has to be pretty proud of what they've been able to do. They have won a medal in 3 straight years. 2023 they won silver, and then back-to-back years where they won the bronze. This is big for a country that has been able to win the tournament before, but it had been a long time. And then from 2006 to 2022, they failed to win a medal in any of those years. So to have 3 straight years where you are taking home a medal is pretty good. And I think that it's really impressive as well, too, seeing the size of the country, the amount of rinks that they have. You go on the IIHF app and you see all the countries listed out and how many rinks they have, it's just insane, because I don't even think they have 200 indoor rinks for the nation. It is incredible. And again, a team that back in 2023, had they would have won it, I think it would have been just their third time winning gold. This side didn't get distracted by, again, the what ifs and what could have been. They were able to beat the Swedes and kind of keep things rolling for maybe next year. Are they one of those sleeper teams that could go out there and claim gold? It really would be exciting if they're able to do that. And as for the gold medal game, it was Finland versus Sweden, and ultimately it was the Finns that lost in heartbreaking fashion. They were up 3-1, I believe, in this game, and they ultimately just were not able to beat the Americans. They lost to them in overtime. This was a year that's probably painful. Again, this side has not won gold since 2016, and they've been in the opportunity to win gold, not too long ago, back in 2022, and now again here, where they take home silver. It's nice, but for a nation where hockey does mean quite a bit more than maybe some of these other nations that are in this tournament, it is very frustrating, especially knowing that you had a real opportunity to go out there and win this. But still, this is the first time that they've won a medal since 2022, I do believe. It is tough, but this American side that they ended up losing to was pretty good, which of course, again, kind of brings us back to Team USA, Hockey USA, going out there and winning. And this is massive for the nation, because I think this is a big statement. This is the first time that they ever have won back-to-back years in a tournament. They have been able to break down a wall in that sense, and I think have really set themselves up nicely, not only for a three-peat, but to really say that they are, the top dog in this corner, where they have put pretty good distance between themselves and most of the competition for this tournament year in and year out. There are probably, maybe like 2 to 3 teams that could handle them on any given year. Not saying that they won't have, again, some stumbles and falls along the way in the coming seasons, or the coming tournaments, I should say. But this is probably, again, the top dog going forward for a very long time. Canada seems to have lost its way. Russia's not in the tournament. And unless a team like Finland or, of course, Czechia or Sweden can kind of get in their way, you'd imagine that, of course, the Americans will probably have a good advantage in the coming years and could very well go on a run that we haven't seen in a while in this tournament. I don't necessarily think they're going to go out there and win 10 in a row by any means, but they are probably going to be the favorite for a long time going out, as they continue to do very well and, again, show why they are an emerging threat, or have really reestablished themselves or put themselves on the map in a big way, winning 3 out of the past 5 years. And then some closing thoughts from the tournament. We probably have to talk about how the Washington Capitals have a smile from ear to ear, as 2 of their prospects had really good tournaments. You're looking at Cole Hudson, who was the first defenseman to ever lead the tournament in scoring. He had 11 points in 7 games. That is big. Of course, too, you're probably ecstatic if you are realizing that his brother is Lane, who is having a big year for the Montreal Canadiens, like 3rd on the team in points when I ended up doing a video about them recently, leading the blue line. So if Cole can really thrive in Washington in the future, that is big. And then, of course, too, you have the MVP of the tournament, Ryan Leonard, who is also a Washington Capitals selection. He is one of these 2 players that, again, you feel like you're really happy if you're an organization seeing them do well in this tournament. But I do want to say, again, we've talked about this before, it is not even 10 games. This is a stacked team going against some other teams that maybe aren't as good. We cannot look at this and say that because of these, handful of games, these guys are going to thrive in the NHL. Mainly just that if you are a Caps fan that have seen your team have a really good year this year, maybe there is more to come in terms of young youth that are going to put a jolt into this side and help them, again, maintain the status that they've had for a long time, is being a good, possibly great team. I don't really know, but of course, too, the focal point is on the U.S. as they are now back-to-back champs and are going to be looked at as a team that really needs to be dethroned in year 3 in order to avoid, a dynasty, if you will. So anyway, that being kind of wrapped up here in a quick summary of World Juniors, what were your thoughts on the tournament this year? Do you think there was a real disappointment outside of Canada? Who do you think was the team of the tournament in terms of the buzz and hype? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And go with hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.